Overcast, the podcast beyond World of Warcraft.
Hello, everybody, to the sixth episode of Mocast. Six episodes, the podcast beyond World of Warcraft.
It's the podcast with the World of Warcraft community figures and their stories. And well, today we have a very special guest. I honestly cannot believe we have our guest here today. Well, again, you saw the thumbnail, you saw the title.
You know how it is.
Yeah, it's none other than Naguura.
Surprise! Yeah.
Big surprise.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for coming, Naguura. It's been a long time coming, gathering a lot of the folks from the community, and we were definitely looking forward to get you up in here and talk a little about World of Warcraft and the streaming career, the MDI casting career, the world first career, I would say. But there's a lot of stuff to get into. So before we get into all of that, could you take the time to tell the people a little bit about yourself? Who are you? What do you do? All of that.
All right. Well, so my name is Naguura online and Caroline in real life. I am 29 years old, even though it does say that I'm 27 years old on my stream description. Don't tell anyone.
Secret has been released.
And I'm a WoW streamer. I've been playing WoW since Classic. I've been streaming WoW for 6-7 years now. And I'm also casting once in a while. I'm casting the MDI, the Mythic Dungeon International. And yeah, that's me. I've been playing this game for a long time.
Yes, we have made our research a little bit here and there, because there's so much you can do on the internet. But Naguura has been playing for quite a while indeed.
Oh, yeah.
I would just kick it off with this thing, because I don't know where you put all of the topics, man, but I'm just gonna go with it, because I looked on the YouTube channel first, because and I saw that a lot of your first videos were with League of Legends. Is that what you started with, playing competitively and then move along? How did that work?
So no, the first game I ever played was World of Warcraft.
All right.
When I was 14 years old, approximately. First, of course, I only played casually because my older brother started playing, and he was the only one with a PC. So I couldn't actually play myself. I would only ever just watch him play. And I was just mesmerized with the game. I just loved watching my brother play. I would sit hours and hours next to him, just watching him play. And whenever he went outside, which didn't happen that often, I could actually play his character. Don't tell anyone, by the way, because that's obviously not allowed. But I was 14 and my brother was fine, right? Yeah. So I would do his farming stuff, and once in a while, you know what, you can play a little. You can farm some ore, and you can farm.
What a nice older brother.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
And yeah, I just loved the game. And at some point I got a laptop myself and I started playing myself, got an account. And it was the only game I played for a long time. Got better in the game and so on. But at some point I did take a break. That was in MOP before SOO came out. And I started playing Hearthstone full time for a year, which I started streaming in that era. So I started streaming Hearthstone and not World of Warcraft. That was my first ever game streamed. But Hearthstone definitely was the game I love playing, but it seemed like a game that I can't stream just because if you're streaming, you can't necessarily go AFK for 10, 20 minutes in between games. And Hearthstone really just felt like a game that I can't play nonstop. I play a couple of games, I do something else, and I play some more and I do something else. And that doesn't really work when you're streaming it. So I got really bored and just burned out by streaming Hearthstone. So I switched to League of Legends. And that's when I also started some YouTube videos. And I just loved League. I loved that game so much. Yeah. And I really wanted to make this whole streaming career work in League of Legends. But I just never managed to reach the viewership that I wanted in that game. Yeah. And that's why I had to switch back to WoW. And
you say that like it's a burden. It's like, I had to switch back to WoW. There was no other choice. I think you made the right call there, Carol.
I think so too.
I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, we can all agree that. Does anybody that plays WoW today didn't play League?
Man, I love League of Legends.
Yeah,
man.
me
We
too,
all- we
man.
all
It
got through
ate
that.
a whole year out of
'Cause
my
it was-
university.
yeah, man. It was the thing with League, right? Like when it became a bit more popular, it was part of the Warcraft Dota thing. So it had the
Yeah.
similarities. It had the competitiveness, obviously, and it had the social. Well, back then, I don't know how much social is, but you were playing with other people.
I think
right?
the
So-
accessibility of it was probably what pushed it to be so
So
big. Yeah,
it's-
but it was
it's-
definitely cool. Because I watched a couple of your videos. I think you were playing Ari, the one that I checked, and I was like, oh my god, that's the old
Ari,
league that I
man,
used
that was
to
so
play.
OP, man. If you managed that,
Oh my god, I hated Ari players. I
boy.
could not understand at the time how the fuck do you like just jump and
yeah, kill everybody. It's too good.
and then I played Ari and I started fucking people up. So that was pretty good.
yeah, it's a good time.
I love that game. Yeah, for sure.
But moving back into WoW. So when I first saw you, I think I was looking for some Resto Druid gameplay, and I saw that you were like pushing M+, high Resto Druid M+. That was like really cool. It's like, oh shit, look at that! I didn't know Resto Druid can push so high. And then I found out that you're actually a competitive raider. How did that start? How did you get into competitive raiding? Because you said you play from classic. I would assume, I don't know, when did you think that's, oh, I want to do this raiding super hardcore? How did that start?
I think it was a very slow process for me because at the start, of course, it was classic, and you just kind of did everything in classic. Like you played a little bit of PvP, a little bit of dungeons and raiding. But I think the love for raiding really started when Naxxramas came out, and I saw those players with the tier 3 armor just standing there, and I would be like admiring them. It's like, oh my god, look at them! They look so cool. I want to do that too. I want to have this tier, and I want to be a top end raider as well. So over the course of the expansions, I would always join better and better guilds. I never made a huge step. I started with like a casual guild with my real life friends. And then at some point when that didn't work anymore, I joined a little bit of a better guild and so on and so on. I would really just go from one guild to another. Of course, this is over the course of 15 years. So it's not that I would leave a guild after a month or something. I would stay there for a while until I felt like we just don't have the same goals anymore in the guild, or the guild disbanded, or whatever happened, right? And at some point, I ended up being in the best German guild, because I used to play in only German guilds, because that's my first language. And
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
yeah. And the best German guild was For the Horde. Back then, this was in Cataclysm, I believe. Oh. And when For the Horde disbanded during Dragon Soul, because there was this whole drama with people getting banned for doing the LFR exploit.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So lots of guilds disbanded. For the Horde was one of them. And at that point, I was in the best German guild, so there was no step up for me to make in the German area. And I didn't want to make a step down. So I figured, okay, so what do I do now? So the better option would have been Method at that point, which was English-speaking guild, though. And my English is not that great because...
Are you sure? Because I'm listening to you.
It used to be not that great. Because, I was learning German and Italian in school and not English. So my English was like, I could understand some things because, I'm on the internet, I play WoW.
Yeah.
Back then, there wasn't a German client, so everything was kind of English anyway. But I didn't speak it that well. So the other people just tried to convince me, because some other people from For the Horde, they also went to Method. And I was like, nah, I can't speak English. I shouldn't be joining. And they just convinced me to apply anyway. And that's when I ended up joining Method. And I used to get some world first with Method back then. This is 5-6 years ago now, so it is quite a long time ago. But I used to be in Method for, I think, 3 years approximately.
All right. So you were in the top roster for Method, yeah? You were there. You were with the world first boys and gals.
How did that feel?
It definitely felt great. It just felt awesome because you had all of these like-minded players. Sometimes I hear other people say, how can you wipe so many times on a boss? Like, how do you not lose motivation if you wipe 300 times on the same boss. And the reason why I never lost motivation when I went for that will first was because each wipe meant something. Like, it wasn't somebody not knowing what to do, making a mistake in that sense. Everyone had the same goal and the same motivation, and everyone really, really tried to achieve this goal. So whenever you had a wipe, it was a meaningful wipe. It wasn't somebody just like trying to pet the damage meters and standing in fire. Yeah, it was you trying to achieve a will first, and everyone tried to figure out the proper strategy. Where should I use what cooldown? Where should I be standing? Where is this other person standing? How do we deal with this mechanic? And it was just this huge process of everyone working together with the same motivation, the same goals. And it just felt great once you've achieved it, especially when you had tough competition. For example, when we played against Paragon in Hellfire Citadel,
Paragon,
it was really, really close between those two guilds, and us and them. And just, when you're playing there and you feel like, oh my God, we're so close to killing it, that means they're probably close too. Like, they could kill it any moment now because we could kill it any moment now. Yep. And then it's just so stressful and so much energy. And it's just great when you finally do get that will first then.
I think we should take these philosophies and apply them to our heroic progression flame. I think we could do a lot better,
Yeah, no, but I get what you mean. That's actually what's so appealing about raiding for me as well. Like, everybody just working towards the same goal, having that innate teamwork. Especially if you find the right people, because there's different kind of people playing the game. But when you essentially get to everybody focus on the same goal, we're all doing this. Okay, it's not about you fucking up. It's about all of us being able to progress to the next step. And the most amount of fun that I ever had raiding was when we wiped like a whole bunch of times, and every wipe was like getting better and better and better and better, and that was really, really satisfying. I 100% agree.
You mean Zod?
No, what? No, Mechatork. Mechatork with no comms. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that was super fun.
How did you end up in pushing Mythic Plus? Like, are you still raiding competitively, or are you just made a big swap to Mythic Plus? Is it because of BFA, or how did that come about?
All right. So at some point when I was in Method, the guild split apart because of different views. Basically, Method wanted to become this organization, but some people in the guild didn't want to be part of the organization. They just wanted to be raiding. And that's why the guild split apart and formed a guild called Serenity. And
I love Serenity.
Method, exactly, yeah. And Method moved on, joined another guild, and made Method an organization. And I joined Serenity, the guild, because they convinced me that I should join them. And it was basically almost all of the players who joined Serenity back then. And we tried to get Will first. It was in Legion that we tried to get Will first. But we ended up losing Emerald Nightmare, which was the very first tier. It was actually a funny story because when it came out, we prepared very well for Emerald Nightmare. We did like all of those split runs, and we played M+ and made sure we have lots of characters leveled to max level, and we have all of our legendaries and all that kind of stuff. And then Emerald Nightmare came out on Mythic difficulty. We went in before we killed the first, or I think 1 or 2 bosses we killed on Mythic, and then we went out and did heroic split runs.
Right.
To gear our main characters. But Exorcist, they did not do split runs. They just went into Mythic and they just killed bosses, and they killed one after the other. And at some point we're like, hey guys, they just keep killing bosses. Maybe we should go back to Mythic.
Maybe we should rethink the strategy here a little bit, hey?
And we went back to Mythic. We ended up playing all day. And at some point at like 11 p.m., we were at the second to last boss. I forgot his name, Scenarius, I think.
Yeah.
And we kept wiping for a little while, and we figured, you know what, we should go to bed early because there's no point pushing ourselves today. If we can just wake up earlier tomorrow and go with a fresh mind. So we go to bed, and the next day we wake up in the morning, and it turns out Exorcist had killed the last boss, Xavius.
Oh shit!
And all of a sudden we're like, oh, okay, what happened there? They cleared it in one day. And yeah, the whole motivation of our guild was really low because of this, because we prepared so much for this first year. And it was the first year of Serenity, the new guild. And yeah, the motivation was a little bit low. And then we ended up losing the next year as well. And the next one as well.
Okay.
Well, we got second. So it's not really, like, second, of course, is still really good, world second. But it just kind of broke the guild apart, because everyone who is in these kind of world first guilds, they really want to get first.
Yeah.
And second, it just doesn't cut it for those people, right? Because they want to get that number one spot. And it ended up just breaking the guild up. And that's when I had to choose, what do I do now? Do I continue trying to get world first? Like, do I try and join another guild that is also competing for world first? Or what do I do? And back then, no one was streaming the world first race. It was like a taboo, because if you stream, then the other guild has your strategies and so on and so on. Yeah. So back then, no one really streamed this progression part. And I'm a streamer. So every time we did the progression, I, of course, lost a lot of revenue because I couldn't stream for a couple of weeks in a row. And I figured once this whole Serenity thing happened, that it broke apart, I figured, you know what, instead of going for world first, I'm going to focus on my stream. I'm going to try to create a guild that is trying to get really high ranking, like top 10, top 20, but we are streaming our progression. So I had this idea, and I talked to some other people who were also in Serenity, and I said, hey guys, what do you think about this? If we make this streaming guild where we still try to get a really high ranking and we rate a lot, but we don't try to get world first, but we stream. And lots of people actually said this is a good idea, and they wanted to join. Specifically, Slootbag said that he wants to do this whole project with me. So we ended up creating the guild Future. Slootbag and I created the guild and managed to get lots of people involved. And yeah, it still exists, actually, the guild, and they're doing really well. Slootbag is still the guild master. I left in after 2 years approximately. But yeah, this whole project worked out pretty well. We ended up streaming our progression. It was lots of fun. But at some point, the World First Guild started streaming their progression as well, as you all know, with the whole World First races.
And what a beautiful thing it was. It still is.
Yeah, I love watching the whole race.
Oh, yeah. It's like our Super Bowl or something.
I think it was kind of revolutionary at the time. I was like, what? They're doing what?
Yeah, man.
That was so cool.
The show is amazing, yeah.
Yeah, but the problem was that it was good for everyone except for us in Future, because we had lots of viewers when we streamed our progression when no one else streamed, because it's like, oh, Future is streaming, we were going to watch them. But then when they started streaming the World First Race, then of course it's more interesting to watch the number 1 guild than the number 20 guild, right? So we lost lots of viewers who were watching us. And it made this whole, like the whole purpose of the guild a little bit redundant, because we're just streaming guild when everyone streams now. So it's nothing special anymore, right? And at some point, I just wanted to change my goal when it comes to rating, because I just figured I do like rating, but if I'm not going for the best of the best, like if I'm not going for World First, then I don't want to be spending as much time anymore inside the raid for progressing. If I'm going to end up getting like a World 20 or World 30 ranking. Because let's be honest here, I feel like lots of people in the community, they care about World First, and that's it. You know, like no one knows what the top 10 guild is nowadays, or the top 15 guild. Maybe if you hear the name, you know the guild, but you don't really remember what kind of ranking they had. Because people kind of care about World First, and then they stop caring about this kind of stuff. And I myself figured as well, why spend so much time rating if I'm not going to go for the best of the best ranking? Then I figured, you know what, I'm going to cut a little bit back. I'm going to leave Future. I'm going to find another guild that rates a lot less, but still tries to do their best. So that's what I ended up doing. I'm now in a German guild again called Advance, and they're only rating 2 days a week during progression as well. And you don't require to have like 1 million alts where you have to spam island expeditions to get AP, which is like a thing that I'm for. And and they're still doing really, really well, considering that they only raid 2 days a week, and that's exactly what I have been looking for. So I can focus more on M+ and outside, like other content, and I'm not like raiding all the time, basically.
Damn.
When you were raiding, I saw that you played Moonkin mostly, right? What made you change to resto? Is it because of how M+ meta is in BFA, or did you actually find resto appealing?
Okay, so I've actually been playing Druid since Wrath of the Lich King, and I started playing Resto Druid, but then I would always switch back and forth between Moonkin and Resto, depending on what my guild currently needed on a boss. So sometimes I would be a Resto Druid main, but my guild said, hey, can you play Moonkin on this boss? I'm like, yeah, sure. For example, I played Moonkin on Yoxaron Zero Lights, even though I was a Resto Druid main back then, but I ended up playing Moonkin there, and it just kept going. I would always like play one spec, but then at some boss they said, oh, can you just play this other spec? Like on Lich King I played Feral Druid, for example, even though I was
I was about to ask, how about Feral? What about Feral?
Yeah, I played Feral then. And when I joined Method, I was also a Resto Druid main for them. But on a lot of bosses, they're like, hey, can you please play Moonkin? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And at some point, when they reduced the Mythic roster from 25 people to 20. I think that happened in Legion at some point.
Was it?
Was it WoD?
Think so. Maybe WoD. Yeah, yeah.
I think it was
it could be
Cataclysm.
also Jenner.
Well, we got Mythic first time in Siege, right? Siege of Orgrimmar? Because it was heroic
exactly.
and it's like...
Each was still 25.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, well, anyway, once they reduced it to 20, they wanted to have less healer mains, and they asked me if I want to be a main Moonkin. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do this. I've been a main healer for a long time, and I play Moonkin all the time anyway. Let's be a main DPS. And I figured it's a good thing anyway, because a healer never gets loot. So I finally was like, nice, I'm going to get items. And yeah, ever since then, I'm actually a Moonkin main. In the raid at least. I am playing Resto Druid in M+ mainly now, but that's just because Moonkin is not very good, unfortunately, in M+. I'm still maining Moonkin in my guild. I'm still a damage dealer main. I just play Resto Druid outside of the raid because of the fact that Moonkin, unfortunately, is not doing that well in M+.
We all know Starfall. Wait, what's Starfall?
Yeah, Starfall?
Wait for Shadowlands, though.
Yeah.
Moving a little bit away from WoW, so you clearly have both a YouTube channel and a streaming platform, and it's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's clear that you're more interested in streaming than doing YouTube. Why did you make this decision, or is there any particular strong reason as to why you chose Twitch over YouTube, for instance?
No, I don't think there was any like big decision between those two. When I started streaming, which is quite a long time ago at this point, I only did it for a bunch of friends who wanted to watch me play. Like they just like, hey, can you please stream? I want to watch. So I was like, sure, let me just turn on the Twitch stream. At some point, I saw other streamers who just made, maybe I didn't think they made a living out of it, but they earned some extra money with streaming. And back then I was a student, and I could definitely use that extra money. So I was figuring, you know what, maybe I try this out. Maybe I try, see how it goes. And that's just how it all started. I never even considered doing YouTube back then, just because I didn't really think about it as content creation, but rather as just me playing a game and other people are going to watch me play. So back then I really just turned on the stream and played and then turned off the stream. Like I didn't think about doing anything special for the stream or for content back then.
Yeah, there was like a part in the streaming history that most of the people started out like that, because back in the day, like even when it was Justin TV before Twitch, I don't know if most people remember that, it was Justin TV first.
Justin TV days.
Yeah, and then it became Twitch, but it was still the jungle times. But I was listening to Carol. So first off, shout out to the Advanced Guild from Germany. You know, was gibt all of that, and also I think like the move you did with Sloot, like to make your own guild and make it a little bit more streaming and still competitive, but also implement the streamer, that was pretty cool. And, funny you should mention Sloot. He just replied.
Oh.
So we're gonna have Sloot at some point over here as well. We'll just need to figure out the details. But in terms of your history and your journey streaming and making content on YouTube and stuff, is there like now, if you look at it, is it something you want to evolve to even more? Like, for example, for YouTube, do you want to like make more content, edited content creation on YouTube as well, or do you want to like still expand on Twitch and I don't know, maybe because I saw you do a lot of on your streams, you do a lot of like fitness stuff as well, and I was curious, like, do you want to like I don't know, expand into a different channel or on YouTube, or do more stuff that's more IRL stuff like that?
So I definitely wanted to expand my brand, basically. So instead of me only being this World of Warcraft player, I also want people to just watch me for me. So for my personality, for my other content, IRL, workouts, cooking, whatever it may be. So I definitely was thinking about doing more YouTube. But I have a big problem with YouTube consuming so much time when I'm, as a streamer, already spend so much time streaming, right? So YouTube definitely, if you want to make good videos, like good edited videos, then it obviously takes a lot of time, right?
Think? Don't we know it?
And that's just something I could take the time, but then I would have to cut back on my streaming hours, which just seems not worth it for me because my YouTube is a lot smaller than my streaming platform. So yeah, I'm on this in this situation where I would want to make more YouTube content, but I just don't think I will have the time. And a lot of my YouTube content is highlight videos, which is basically just clips from my stream, which are a lot simpler to make and doesn't take as much time, but they're not as popular anymore as they used to be. There was a time on YouTube where highlight videos would work really well and people would watch them all the time. But at this point, they're just kind of outdated and people don't like watching them anymore because we have clips and all that stuff. So I just cut back on YouTube. I did try to do some content, like my recent video, for example, is before the Elgato video, there was like a special video I made about my fitness, and people liked that content. But I think if I only do one special video every month, then because of how the YouTube algorithm works, I don't think it would get very popular. And therefore, I just figured I'm just gonna stop YouTube for now and focus on other things. And maybe at some point when I find the time again to do YouTube, I'll work on that again.
It's definitely a potential there. And it's weird because the algorithm of YouTube, so it's like if like your content is pushed to a specific audience, and if you want to try out on your channel something new that your audience is not really accustomed to, that's like the tricky part of the YouTube algorithm, right? So you have 1 year with stream clips, from Rate Progression or Mythic Plus, whatever, and then you put out a fitness video, right? The algorithm will push it to the same people, and that's the tricky part because not everybody will be clicking on this. Is how YouTube works nowadays. And highlights, if you're not Asmongold, well, what can we say?
Exactly. Yeah.
So good.
And Asmongold could upload anything and people would watch it, right? So
it's good. More power to him, man. He had his journey. Hopefully, we can get him here at some point too. All right. Well, YouTube, Twitch, world first raider, super high key pusher. So you're quite the competitive person, I must say. But what was the story behind the casting? How did you get into that? If you can talk about it, obviously, because we know some things. Like how did that happen? If you can say anything about it, how did it start? How did it evolve? All of that.
I think it started when there was Gamescom coming up. This is, I think, 2017, so 3 years ago. Gamescom was coming up, and somebody messaged me on Twitter DMs. It's like, hey, are you interested in casting? And I'm like, who are you? And it turned out to be an esports coordinator for Blizzard.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. It's like, I mean, I guess I never thought about casting before he messaged me. So I definitely had to think about it. But I figured, like, how would this exactly work? I asked him, and he said, well, we would start with some smaller things, and we would get you used to it and so on, and we'll see how you do first of all. I was like, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, I'm interested. And at some point he said, okay, so let's get this going. So first he wanted me to just cast over some videos, some World of Warcraft content.
Oh, that's so cool.
I
didn't know that. All right.
I think it was like a kill video of a boss or something. And so I did that, and I showed him, and he told me what was good and what was bad about it. And then he said spontaneously, this was 1 week before Gamescom, he said, hey, do you want to come to Gamescom and cast on the stage? Because they are doing like an island expedition show match. They invited 2 guilds to do the 3 versus 3 PvP island.
Yeah.
And I should be commentating over it on stage. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that was a shocker. Yeah, sure, let's do it. Come on.
There's the attitude.
I was super nervous when I did that for the first time because, first of all, I had to cast it in German because it was all in Germany, and I play in an English guild. My client is in English. I stream in English, so I don't even know the German ability names, right? And she said, I mean, it would be good if you could use the German ability names. And I'm like, oh no! I was like, so I really had to like sit there and learn the German names for everything and for the island names and so on. So I was super, super nervous when I did this for the first time. And there were so many people too. Lots of people say, but you're a streamer. You have like thousands of people watching you every day.
Not the same thing, right?
But it's not the same at all. Like, it's completely different.
You see all those souls, all those eyeballs watching you over there. It's like...
Exactly. But even when... So later on, they invited me to cast the MDI, right?
Yeah.
In fact, they wanted me to already cast the very first MDI in 2017. But I qualified before I knew they wanted to invite me. So I qualified as a player in a team to the MDI. And that's why they didn't ask me. And they told me this afterwards. After the MDI was over, they said, well, actually, we wanted you to cast the very first one, but you did too well, so we can ask.
You're too good of a player to cast.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? Come on. That
sounds like a lot of fun, and I bet that through casting you get to meet like all sorts of people, be in that community, and I was always envious of the potential energy that you have when you go to those events and everybody's like pumped to do it, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna see you play, and that was pretty cool. So do you have like any favorite casting moment that impacts you? It's like, oh, this is so cool, stuff like that.
I definitely love casting any sort of like BlizzCon. I only went to BlizzCon once, unfortunately, because I didn't manage to get to go there last year. So this was in 2018 that I went. It was the first time that I went to BlizzCon, and the first time that I was casting in front of such a huge crowd as well. And that was definitely my favorite moment, just coming out, seeing all of those people like standing and sitting there and cheering on the teams. And I'm just casting. Of course, they're cheering on the teams and not the casters, but it still felt...
you still feel the energy, right?
The
electricity in the room. It must be... Flame, one day, man. We'll get there one day. We'll get there. Let's finish off with this pandemic
BlizzCon
nonsense.
was our dream this year. We have it like super big on our goals whiteboard.
It's written. All the walls are filled.
And then what is it? March hit, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah. It's everybody. Well, I think at the latest earnings call, J. Allen Brack confirmed that there will be 100% a online BlizzCon event at the beginning of next year. So, something.
Still get the hype, still get the love.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, this is pretty cool. And what a journey you had so far, Naguura. It's a little bit different than what we had up until now on our podcast. Because most of the folks we had up until now are mainly YouTube video creators. Now we're talking a little bit of a different field here. But nevertheless, we are all aware of the amount of effort and scheduling and the amount of work, let's just put it, work that goes behind the scenes. But when you do take a break, right? When I say take a break, I mean like just, disconnect, from thoughts and planning and emails and all sponsors and all of that. How does that day look for Carol, for Naguura?
Okay, so first of all, I rarely ever do take a day like that.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, it's a pattern for sure.
So I actually only stream 5 days a week on a normal week. I take off Saturday and Sunday from streaming because that's just what I developed over the years. I used to stream a lot more in the past, like 6 or almost like even 7 days a week. But I have a boyfriend now and lots of my friends who work 5 days a week as well, who have Saturday and Sunday off. So I kind of adjusted my schedule to fit their working times, or like normal people working times.
Oh, we know that.
So whenever I'm not streaming, I can actually spend some time with my friends, with my family. And even though I do take Saturday and Sunday off, I'm still working a lot during those off days, especially on my like social media content, stuff like taking Instagram pictures here and there, making an Instagram story, posting things on Twitter, coming up with content for the next weeks, figuring out what to stream, what kind of answering questions, answering private messages. There is a lot of private messages. So yeah, I definitely I don't think I never ever completely turn off. But you could say that I spend lots of time with my friends and my family if I take time off. I really like just hanging out with my friends, playing board games. I'm a really big board games fan. And I also love doing fitness and just going outside, looking at beautiful places, mountains, and so on.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's food for the soul.
Full on geek over here, man. You got the WoW thing, you got the streaming thing, you got the board games. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah. You mentioned that you started streaming in college or university because that was a potential revenue source. I mean, we can all agree that students could use a little bit more. We've all been there.
It's never enough, though.
But did you have any jobs outside of full-time stream, or did you work anywhere else besides Twitch and maybe YouTube?
Yeah, so I live in Italy, and we have like a really weird school system where we have 3 months of summer vacation. So July, August, and half of June and half of September is actually off. So when I was growing up, when I turned like 14, my parents said, well, since you have 3 months off of school now, you can go and get a summer job. So every summer,
be productive. God damn it, what are you doing all day?
So every summer I would do a summer job at places. I mainly would help out in restaurants and cafes because my mom actually owns a cafe, a small one. She usually just works there herself, like there's no other workers. But once in a while, my mom said, you know what? Could you like help me out, work in like just take over the cafe for 2 hours so she can go take a nap or something or go get grocery shopping. So I would do that a lot as well, even during school times. So I would go to school, and after school I would take over the cafe for her for a couple of hours until she comes back. So I did that a lot. And afterwards, when I went to university, I would also work in a cafe for a while. Up until I figured out, I can play video games and earn money. So I did that instead.
That's, some would say that would be ideal. The dream of many a gamer.
But like, this is now the rumor has been confirmed. So Naguura's legacy is gonna be, the tycoon of cafes in Italy. You heard it here first, okay? The mom owns a coffee shop or a cafe or whatever. You heard it here, okay? But it's like when we started off, you did mention that you're originally from Germany, but live in Italy. What was that story about? Did you move with your family early on to Italy, or were you originally in Germany and then decided, oh, Italy is a nice place, let me go there? Or how did that story work? Because now you know German and Italy and English, so there must be something going on there.
It's very funny always because so many people don't actually know my story, where I'm from. Because a lot of people know that I speak German. So lots of people assume I am from Germany, but I'm not actually from Germany. I am Italian. I'm born in Italy. I'm an Italian citizen, and I live here now.
Oh, shit. Well, I got it all wrong.
That's a plot twist.
Yep.
No, don't worry. Like everyone's getting it wrong. But yeah, the story behind it is just that I live in South Tyrol, which is a German-speaking part of Italy. So it's a very tiny province that just has 2 official languages, German and Italian. And 80% of the population here speaks German as their first language.
Wow.
That's new. That's educational.
Yeah, not many people know that.
But
Well, there you go. The truth is out.
Yeah. Well, how many things we get revealed here? So, the Cafe Tycoon, that's one thing. Now we know for sure that Naguura is 100% Italian. Parla italiano? Parla italiano? Did I say that right?
You did. My Italian is actually not that good, though. Like, I understand almost everything, but because I never speak Italian, I learned it in school for like 13 years, but I never have to speak it because I always just speak English, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just really bad at speaking it. But when somebody comes to me and speaks Italian, I'm like, yeah, I understand everything. And then when he like expects me to answer, I'm like,
Start with the sign languages. Well,
did you answer in German or?
That would be something.
I understand English most of the time, so it's fun.
Cool.
So you talked about fitness being part of your life, and clearly you have YouTube videos on fitness and workouts, and you're also streaming them. Do you have any specific goals for fitness? Because that's how I feel. If you're gonna pursue a healthier lifestyle and also include fitness in your life, you have to have some goals. What are you looking to achieve on that front?
All right, so fitness is definitely something I am not into for that long already. I've started doing fitness and going to the gym like 2 years ago approximately, and before that I really wasn't physically active at all. Like for years I didn't do any like physical activity whatsoever. So when I started getting into fitness, because I was just unhappy with my physical fitness, really. I was like, I'm constantly tired. If I have to walk up 10 steps, I'm tired. If I have to go shopping or outside, I'm missing the energy. And I think energy is really important as a content creator, as a streamer, because you need to be entertaining and you need that energy to make sure that you are entertaining. So I really wanted to change that about me, to make sure that I'm just fitter in real life, to also have this energy for streaming. So I started going, first of all, I had a really hard time starting out. And I think most people are that way, like finding that motivation to start is the hardest part. Yeah. And once I finally managed to get it going, at all these times where I would go twice, then I stop again for like 2 months, just like, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. So I go to the gym once and then I don't go again for 2 weeks, right? I had this time where it was really, really hard. But at some point I did manage to convince myself to finally just stick to it and keep it up, keep the motivation up. And now I'm really going regularly 4 times a week, almost 5 times at this point. And my goals really, of course, are to just build muscle. I'm doing more strength training than cardio. And a lot of people, especially male people, tell me, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You're a woman. You should be doing cardio. You don't need muscles. But I personally just really like doing that sort of strength training and just going to the gym and lifting a little bit more weight than last time, having this progression. I think that's just me as a person, because I'm just a really competitive person, I feel like.
I thought so.
It did come. I always want to be the best of the best. I always want to put all of that time into. And I think this is the reason why I'm also into strength training over like cardio because I just always want to push myself. I always want to have more and more weight. So yeah, I think that's just, I don't really have one goal when it comes to fitness. I just want to progress and just get better over time and just be happy about what I can achieve in that regard as well. And I think it's mainly for my mental health, I think, because it just really, really makes me happy personally to do the workouts. And once I'm done, I'm just so like, I'm happy, I'm in a good mental space, I have the energy. And I think that's just the main goal that I have, just being happy with myself.
That's a really good mindset to have. Would you say that increasing the weights that you can lift is a similar feeling as to increasing your eye level?
I think so, yeah. Or increasing the radar.io score.
Wow, that is much better answer.
When I go to the gym, I mainly focused on training my back, so I can carry people in implants better.
That's the best answer for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
The
Goddamn.
Shoulders and back. Well, I mean, working out is definitely, I mean, it has been proven scientifically that it's very healthy for the body and the mind, and it actually gives you more energy because most people might think it's like, but I'll just be tired after workout. And it doesn't really work that way.
Nope.
And if you're like really into a healthy lifestyle, you also know that, food is also a big part of it. So, and we all know that, you can eat that way or you can eat that way. But do you have a healthy food that you know it's good for you and you eat it because it's good for you, but you don't particularly like it? What's like your least favorite healthy food that you kind of force yourself to eat because you know it's good for you? If you have something like that.
Sort of vegetables and broccoli.
Of course, the broccoli. As a druid, Naguura, how can you not love broccoli?
But yeah, I mean, I do try to eat as healthy as possible. I'm definitely not a person who strictly eats healthy food and like makes sure that there's no like whatsoever, because some people really only eat like chicken breast without any seasoning and like white rice and broccoli. And I'm like, no, like I'm not doing that kind of stuff. I definitely still want to enjoy my food because I love food. I'm a food person for sure. So I really like eating good food and making sure that it's not just healthy, but also tastes good. So I definitely do sometimes eat stuff that I don't like as much, like vegetables. But to be honest, even a vegetable that I don't like as much, if it's prepared properly in like a proper dish, then it's still good. Like I'm not gonna I'm not hating on it completely. Like even broccoli can be good if the dish around it is well made.
If it has like 3 pieces of meat around.
Exactly.
I was also about to ask, like, how do you make your like least favorite foods, appealing? Do you season it? Do you cook it specifically?
Yeah, just put some more salt.
Exactly. Salt fixes everything. And onions.
Oh, onions.
Onions, yes.
Agree. It's one of my favorite ingredients.
And garlic.
I mean, I was about to say, how about garlic, man? Come on. I mean, if it's not garlic, then what?
Garlic. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
So you mentioned that you went to Gamescom, you went to BlizzCon, you are also Italian, speak a lot of German. I would assume, maybe I'm wrong here, thinking that you might have went to Germany as well initially to travel at for pleasure, not business. But traveling all around the world, did you have like a moment that impacted you the most? Maybe about the people, the country, or the culture that said, "Wow, this is so cool," or something that inspired you or made you make a change to yourself as a person?
I don't think there was one specific moment where I actually wanted to change myself as a person afterwards. But I definitely think the most interesting country that I went to ever is actually the US.
Hello.
Plot twist.
Because the people there, I felt are just so different to what I'm used to. They're so outgoing. Like people just would randomly walk up to me and be like, "Hey, how are you? Where are you going?" Like on the airports, like, "Where are you from? Where are you going?" And I'm like, "You're a stranger. Why are you talking to me?" What is this?
How do I react to this?
Europeans have been doing social distancing before it was cool.
Yeah. It's just because here where I live, it's really not a common thing to like talk to strangers or anything. We're definitely not an outgoing folk around here. So when I went to America and I saw all of these outgoing people and all of these like friendly, nice people, I definitely figured to myself, maybe I should be more like them. Maybe I should get out more and talk to people more, because for a long time, especially as a streamer, people say, but you talk to people all day. How can you be socially awkward, or how can you not be good at interacting with other people in real life? And I'm like, it's not the same. Like, I'm speaking to a camera. No one speaks back, right? When I'm streaming, they are chatting, but no one's actually like having a conversation with me. So for a long time, I didn't go out that much, and I barely had any human interactions outside of just the streaming interaction and the online interactions. So sometimes I would really be awkward going out, and I would have social anxiety because I didn't know how to like talk to people, how to react to things. I would constantly be aware of everything. It's like, oh my God, what do I say? What do I do? What do I do with my hands? Oh my God, my hand.
So aware, right? So aware.
So many hands to juggle at the same time.
And how do I, where do I put my feet? Oh my God.
You get those awkward positions like, yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
yes.
It's totally natural.
I can 100% confirm this. Going for the US for the first time, US people are way more outgoing, way more open, way more friendly. It's like I went into a shop and it's like, oh hey, how's it going? It's like,
yeah.
I was looking like, oh, who's there? Oh, me. Oh, yeah, thanks, man. This is pretty good.
It's weird because we're from Romania, so I have a lot of relatives, friends who live in Italy, and I've been there a couple of times as well. And it's weird because I've always came to the realization that Italian folk are really outgoing too. Like whenever we would go to markets and stuff, like people were like, everybody's out. So the first thing I noticed about the Italian folk, the first time I went there, everybody's out drinking a goddamn coffee. It's like on a fucking entrance to a building, on a small little cafe blocks, like with 2 seats, everybody's there drinking coffee, reading the paper and stuff like that. And it felt really different from what we were used to here. Now, if you can add to that the US being even more outgoing, well, I want to get there.
You definitely should. But yeah, I think the people here, so in South Tyrol, like specifically in this German-speaking area, are definitely different to Italian people. Right. Because we are more, I would say we are more, like our ethnicity is more Austrian, German. Right. Because South Tyrol used to belong to Austria. In fact, Tyrol is still part of Austria, right? So North and East Tyrol is part of Austria. But after the First World War, they had to give part of their country to Italy, and they gave away South Tyrol. Unfortunately, they just gave it away.
Know your history, folks. That's what it is.
So yeah, that's why we're still like our demeanor here and our behavior is still slightly different to Italian people. We do have lots of cafes though, and people love drinking cafe here too.
The cappuccino, the small ones. Like the first time I drank, because I was used to the cappuccino that was being done here, right? Which is a big ass, milk bullshit. And I went to Italy and drank my cappuccino, which is like this. It's like a small thing. And what's it called?
What she said.
It was, but it was super small. It's like, man, what am I gonna do with this, dude? Like the first time I drank that, it was like, super strong.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I want to try it now.
Dude, I'm telling you, if you want to walk around jumping on the walls all day, go ahead.
So one way to increase heart rate.
Yeah.
It works.
Italy is a beautiful place nonetheless. Austria too. I mean, I've been there too. It's amazing places. Like U.S. You said that the U.S. fascinated you the most because of the people, and it's 100% sure. But Europe also has like a lot of great places to go and visit, and it's interesting.
A lot of cultural diversity.
100%, yeah. there was we want to get into this I won't call it final segment of the podcast where we get ideas or situations or experiences or whatever stuff that can inspire help other people. But there's one thing about the resto druid. I don't know, Flame, you take over this one because
I was actually really curious about this because clearly we know whenever you try to be competitive, you're always going to pick the best of the best. So as you're a top resto druid in M+, I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but last time I checked, your highest key was a 29, which is Jesus.
Yeah, we almost did a 30. But we depleted it by 3 seconds.
Oh no!
Wow, 3 seconds off of 30? Oh, yeah. Right.
Okay, next time.
So as a top resto druid, because we get a lot of questions in our stream and in our videos as well about, that spec is trash, that spec, just play that spec. When would you say, or when would you advise people to think about the meta? When is meta important for a person that's competitive, be it either in M+, or in raiding? Does it matter if you play meta, or when does that become important?
I think it becomes important very late. You can go super, super high key levels even with non-meta classes. The bigger problem is not the class, but the community perception, in my opinion, because you're going to have much harder time to get invited with a non-meta class, not because the class is not suitable for a 15 key, but because the people who are inviting, they want a meta class because they probably don't even know why exactly. They just, these other people are playing this class, so this must be the class that I need, right? Even though that is not true at all. Lots and lots of classes, almost every single spec in the game, even if you look at Raider.io, they have statistics of each spec and class, and almost every spec has really has some players that have really, really high rating that are doing really high level keys. And same goes for raiding as well. In the raiding environment, some people think, I need this class or that healer or this tank because I saw complexity limit having those tanks, so we need those too. But that's really just for cutting edge raiding and cutting edge M+, when you really squeeze out every single damage point and every single survivability and whatever else you need. But then they're also utilizing it well. The thing about playing meta classes, if you don't know how to utilize this, the utility and their damage, is that there's no actual point. For example, rogues have been good in M+ for a long time, right? And the big reason why rogues are good is because of the utility they provide. They don't actually do a lot of damage anymore. Hunters and mages, they do way more damage than rogues. But rogues are there to provide utility with single target interrupts, stuns, shroud, distracts, tricks of the trade, and so on. And the funny thing is that lower key players, groups in the looking for a group channel, they're always saying, I want a rogue for this group. So I queue up, I'm of course not a rogue, as a Moonkin or something, and they're no, I need a rogue. And when I finally managed to get into a group as a Moonkin, which is hard, by the way, then I see they actually have a rogue and we do the dungeon, but they never used the rogue's utility. They never used Shroud, they never used Sap, they never used the interrupts from the rogue, they never used anything from the rogue. Yeah. So there's no point inviting that rogue if you're not going to use the thing that makes him good, right? Yeah. So you could have as well invited Enhancement Shaman. It would have been the same thing. In fact, maybe it even would have been better to have the Shaman, because maybe that player would have played his class better than the rogue played his class and would have done more damage, right? So I think community perception is definitely a problem, specifically in M+. Raiding, it's a little bit better, I think, because there's just more people that you can have in a raid. In M+, you only have 5 people, only 3 damage dealers. So community perception definitely makes it hard if you're a non-meta class to get invited. But just shout out to everyone who is watching this podcast right now. Make sure you invite non-meta classes, because most of the time you don't need the meta class. And a lot of the time, the people who are playing non-meta class actually know how to play their class really well, right? Because if someone plays Enhancement Shaman nowadays, even though it's not considered that good, then they probably are still, they're probably playing their spec better than somebody who just plays a class because it's good right now. And Enhanced Enchantment Pro knows every in and out of their class and knows exactly what to do in each situation. And you're probably better off inviting that class over the Flavor of the Month class.
Say no to re-rolling Havoc, everybody.
Yeah, the movement starts here. It's you know what? I noticed this though. You say you're not like 100% Italian because the whole thing with the Austria things. But I gotta say, Naguura, like you do talk a lot. Italians do talk a lot, and you fit right well there. And it's a beautiful thing, especially for this podcast we're doing here. So thank you for being that part Italian.
I also use my hands a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the thing with the head, of course. Yeah, it's.
How can we forget?
All right, so I think we can close the chapter with the World of Warcraft thing. And it was. I hope what you said, coming from a top end player, would inspire a lot of other players to just stick to their guns and not always re-roll Flavor of the Month. It was super inspiring because I play a Red Paladin and nobody invites Red Paladins. Like, why would you?
It's like really sadness.
They do really well, and they do have their utility too. But forget it. We're not going to go there. We're going to close this chapter. Thank you for that. Hope it helps a lot of the people out there. I know it's going to help me. All right. Well, Naguura, moving on a little bit to like. Being a gamer is not always the healthiest thing. You probably noticed, and you said so at some point, because you wanted to get into fitness and all that, and not trying to make it sound super bombastic, but from your perspective, what are like 3 things you would recommend gamers to do for a healthier lifestyle? 3, not 2.
Well, okay, so I think the one most important thing as a gamer is to really find something that you do that is not on the PC that you like doing, that just find something, right? Because I know lots of gamers, especially when you're younger. When I was young, gaming was all I wanted to do. And I also felt like I felt like no one else is sharing this hobby in real life. Like none of my friends really understood this whole like gaming world. So they, even if I didn't play a lot, like even if I said, hey, I can come tomorrow, but today I can't come because I'm raiding, then like they just didn't understand. They would always like look down at me spending time gaming. And at some point I distanced myself from some of those friends and spent all of my time playing video games. And I really started to just like never go out anymore, not do anything anymore outside of gaming. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of really awesome connections you can make on gaming too. Like you can make lots of friends, and you can, so there's people who meet their husband or their wife online, right? Yeah. Like there's definitely merits to that too. But I do think that it needs to be a healthy relationship where you also sometimes do go outside, because a human just needs social interaction with like in real life once in a while, because otherwise you're just going to be unhappy, I think. Maybe not everyone, but at least for me it was like that I was happy playing games, but I never really was happy mentally, because there was just always something missing. I never really had this human interaction in real life, especially when I started streaming. Because some people at least have a job where they like go to the job and then they interact at least with their working buddies, right? Or their working colleagues, and then they go home and play. But for me as a streamer, I never even left the house, right? Like I streamed here, looked at my PC, and after I'm done streaming, I still look at my PC, and there's no one I ever interact with in the actual real world. And that really caused me to just never be happy properly, just always be depressed, and there was always something missing. And that's why I think it's important to just find one thing that you can focus on in real life that doesn't have anything to do with gaming. And if it's like finding like a board game group that you can meet up with and play board game once a week, or fitness, or I don't know, maybe some other sport, or any sort of thing that you're interested in outside of gaming that you can do with other people in real life. And I think it's just very important to find a thing like that to just balance out this online world with the real life. So you just have this human interactions. So that's the number one tip I have for people. And two more. Oh no.
Well, you kind of mentioned it. I was expecting the other two to be with the fitness and watching a little bit what you eat, but I think your philosophy on having the workout while also eating things that make you happy, like tasteful stuff, and from time to time watching a little bit, being careful, not over exaggerating, because I think something that comes in lots of quantities eventually is detrimental. So I think a balance between burger, broccoli. Keep it like this. Keep like this. We should be good, right? We should be good.
We need to coin that, man. We need to coin it. The MarcelianOnline burger broccoli coefficient.
Yeah.
Make the balance. Make the switch.
No, I think it's pretty cool, and it's definitely important for people to realize, especially people that play online games. Most of them are online nowadays, anyways. But it's really important for them to realize to get a little bit more of a grip on reality too, because a game like WoW can really suck you in, and it can compensate for a lot of the things you would be missing or you have missed maybe in your life or whatever, and that is a really tricky thing to get into. So
gaming. I think gaming feeds your minds. It helps with imagination, creativity, and of course, online gaming and MMOs can really make you understand teamwork in that sense, because rating and everything. But what you said actually is better, because anybody can say, oh no, eat healthy, exercise. That's pretty obvious. But human connection feeds your soul, feeds your spirit, and we're not just mind creatures or physical creatures, so we need that. And that's the issue. This is how you said it. It's not obvious. You don't know why you want that, but you need to go out. You need to see friends, have interactions with people. That's how we grow as humans. And I think that's actually a really, really good answer. That was really cool.
It's the most important thing for an adult is to keep. So it's funny we're talking about a lot of this socializing and getting out during this goddamn time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
What a time to have this conversation.
But it's still important. So
stay safe, everybody.
Yeah. Well, Carol is still with the friends and stuff. Like we do that too, like with close friends, relatives. It's important, guys. Don't forget about those. All right, Carol. I want to ask you some. With all of your journey, right? So it's been quite a lot of years with the YouTube thing, with the streaming thing, all of this packed up. But what was the most rewarding moment in your life that made you feel like, I did it, my efforts were worth it? Was there a moment like that?
I don't think so. I think there's lots of smaller moments where I said, this is great, and this is I really am proud of what I achieved. But I don't think there was one moment where I said, this is the one moment. I definitely was super proud when I managed to get on the Blizzard launcher. For example,
yes,
where my stream was there, and it's I got recognized by Blizzard, by the company that creates the game that I've been spending so much time playing.
Yes.
But lots of other things as well. For example, my parents used to not understand gaming in general, and they would they would never really understand that I'm spending so much time playing. And in the past, especially when I was really young, as I mentioned before, I played I played a lot, and I never really went outside anymore with friends, and I really disconnected from that real life. So they definitely had a good reason to think that I'm addicted or that I should be doing something else. But so I was definitely an extreme case of somebody who would spend way too much time playing video games. But I think my parents also never really understood, they never really tried to understand this whole world. They didn't understand streaming and esports and none of that stuff. So whenever I was on the PC, no matter what I did, they always just thought, she's gaming. She's doing something that she's not. She's wasting her time, wasting her life. Exactly. Yeah. And when I moved to Austria, because I was studying there, because there's no universities in South Tyrol where I live, so I moved to Austria. I really like stopped talking to my parents a lot. I barely ever spoke to them anymore, and I was away for 4 years almost, where I really had very, very little contact with my parents. I would come home for like Christmas, but sometimes I only came home once a year or twice a year. And yeah, there was just this whole thing that my parents didn't understand what I do, and they never really tried, and they thought I'm wasting my life. And at some point, when my streaming got more, like when I managed to earn more money with streaming, and I actually managed to make a living out of streaming, I talked to my parents about this, and I think that's when they finally realized that this is not just like me wasting my life. This is I'm actually making money. I'm actually making a living with the thing that I love doing. Like I basically made my hobby or my passion into my job. And when they finally realized this and they recognized, and they were actually proud of what I achieved.
Oh, yes.
There was this one moment in life where like, oh my God, like they finally understand. Like I'm not just like fighting against them anymore. They finally like recognize that I have achieved something in my life, and they're proud of me. And that was also a moment where I was like, nice, I finally like made it.
that has to feel really nice. The people who didn't really understand or maybe believe, you get them to understand. It's like, oh yeah, you proved me wrong. That's actually pretty good. That must feel really nice.
Yeah, and having your parents finally realize and actually them being proud of you, I think that's as rewarding as it can get at the end of the day. Because, you know, I think most of us had this, I wouldn't call it struggle, but this stigma, right? The wasting your life, the wasting your time thing, right? Even when you would start doing, and, you know, it would be more work than actual, you know, playing just for playing and stuff. When you got to the point where you just, hey guys, I can sustain myself out of this. How about them apples? I think that's really good.
Paying rent, paying food, and everything else.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
It's really good. It's really inspiring, and you guys should really listen to this. It's been a really awesome conversation, Carol. And I actually have one last thing in closing to this, because it's kind of what we want our vibe to be like. But you're clearly a very competitive person. You're a Mythic Raider, high IO player. You're pursuing goals in fitness. You're an MDI caster. I don't know if I missed anything. So that's really cool. It's always nice to, like, you know, strive to be better. Is there anything that pushes you, that motivates you to go that one step forward? Do you have any sources of inspiration, like a book, or maybe you listen to podcasts, or maybe there's a person or people out there that inspires, like, I want to be like that person, or that person says something really cool that got me to do this one thing that I didn't really think I could do it, or anything like that?
No, I don't think there's anything like that really inspires me personally, except just knowing how happy I am once I achieve something like that. Like whenever I achieve a certain goal that I have, I'm just proud of myself, and I'm happy that I achieved it. I try as much as possible to not compare my achievements with other people, because that's something that definitely pushes you down, and it's hard to do with social media nowadays, right? If you achieve something and you see another person doing it even better, then you're like, oh man, you know. But you should really focus on your own achievements. And one thing that I think a lot of people maybe don't necessarily understand, or at least they're not really good at it, is to think about themselves and themselves only. Because lots of people, especially in video games, when they don't achieve something, or then they always like, oh, well, it's because my group didn't play well, or because this other person wiped us there, or this and that happened, right? But that's not something you can change, right? You can't change, like, you can't make other people play better. You can make yourself do better. And I think that's what you should think about in every aspect of your life. If you want to get better at something, you need to focus on yourself and like continuously try to improve and figure out what you can improve in, right? If you just think, oh, I'm doing everything perfectly, it's everyone else's fault, then you're going to be stuck. You're never going to get better at anything if you think that you're already at the top. You really have to just critically think about what you're doing wrong, what you can improve.
Yeah,
So it's all coming from inside. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
just get rid of the selfish drug, basically, because that's what it is. You know, people tend to be, especially in online games, and you know that reverberates into real life always, right? So as much as possible, stop being selfish. You know,
A little bit of humility goes a long way sometimes.
humility, humbleness. Whatever it's called.
Yeah, it starts with an H and with the U following afterwards.
So
So
put the other words there.
we're in the ballpark.
It's been awesome. Again, I think I said this every podcast, but like I have my expectations when talking to people from the community, you know, public figures from the WoW community. I never expect like things to go like this far and get so many good vibes and, you know, good stories and stuff like that. So thank you, Naguura, for being so open and, you know, talking a lot, which is really helpful. Again, it's good. It's good.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
It's awesome because this is kind of what we want to do. We want to, you know, show people that there's more to people, and in this case to content creators, streamers, YouTubers, than that there is just on the webcam, right? We have lives, we have other things that make us whole, and it's really cool when we can explore that and actually talk about it and find out that we are all different and we're all so interesting, and that's so cool. That, you know, it's not just, oh, I just wake up, play games, go to sleep, wake up, play games. Well, I do the same thing that you do all day. No, I have my own thing, and that's really cool. And I think that can give people perspectives like it's good to be different, even though a lot of us strive to be the same, to be accepted by society. It's really cool to be different and have that uniqueness because that attracts people. And that's really nice.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And guys, if you want to find out more about Naguura here, well, you can see somewhere there you get the Twitch, the YouTube, the Twitter, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot more links to a lot more social medias. But that's what we kind of got to know, because obviously we've been following, you know, the streams and the MDI cast and stuff. There's a lot more to Naguura, but I think those are
We'll set you on the right path.
Yeah, they'll set you on the right path, and definitely go check her out, check the streams, check the YouTube content, you know, the workouts and all of that. Beautiful stuff. Thank you so much for joining. It's been a blast.
It's been
Thanks
really,
for having me.
Really inspiring. Yes, very, very nice to always have all kinds of different people in our podcast.
And one thing we have learned today, Naguura is not German. She's Italian. Okay, don't mix it up again, folks.
And I don't like broccoli.
Yeah,
broccoli.
no broccoli, please.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening or watching. This has been the 6th episode. We shall see you again next Monday with a brand new guest, which will not spoil just yet.
No, of course not. It's always going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
And we have, I don't know where you're watching or listening to this, we have multiple platforms for our podcast. Marcelian, what are those platforms?
Oh man, it's basically so Spotify is like the main thing, but you can listen it to the Google Podcasts, and all of them, all the platforms known in the world except iTunes. We're still working on getting it to there. So you have places if you just want to listen to it in your car and stuff like that. But that being said, we wish you a great rest of the week.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Still, stay safe in your house.
Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW.